Hey MGTOWs, this is Vincent. Pardon my appearance, I just woke up. I wanted to discuss two things today, and that's when I was flying back on the plane, I was reading out of a old book that I discovered on Usenet called How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World, which is a pretty darn good book, and it's still relevant today. Second thing I wanted to discuss is what I'm planning to do in this next bull run for Bitcoin, and if I'm planning to sell at the top. Like, I'm expecting at least 200 grand this year, and if we reach that point, am I going to sell into fiat? And because of the usual crash which occurs at the end of the 4-year cycle. We could run up to like $200,000 or $300,000 and then crash down to 100 grand, right? Usually we get about an 80% pullback. So I'll cover that first. Now, if we have that 80% pullback, let's just call it an 80% pullback, what would I be selling into? That would be fiat, and the way the last two administrations, the current one and the previous one, have been printing money like insane. Citigroup was calling last year for, basically some giant number, like 30 or 40% of all US dollars that ever existed have been printed last year. And the printing presses are still going nuts. So Citigroup's calling for 30% inflation, or no, 20% inflation, but I think that's a low ball. I think the real inflation is going to be about 35%. But let's go ahead and kind of compromise or round it off to like 30%, right? So if I sold a meaningful amount of my Bitcoins, that would probably put me in the top friggin' income tax rate level. I'm not even going to bother looking it up, but let's just do a quick estimate. Let's call it like 40%, right? So the IRS would take about 40% of it, right? And that would leave me with as soon as I sold, that would leave me with an instant 40% haircut. And that's half of what the Bitcoin crash or the pullback or the bear market usually involves. So then, if we on top of that add the inflation that I'm expecting, let's call it 30%, that works out to 70%. And during that time, if I'm sitting in fiat, the banksters will be printing money and robbing the value of all the dollars that I have in savings, right? Then I would be losing money there. So that would work out to a total of about 70%, right? If I sold. And if I don't sell, I would drop the full 80% pullback. If that happens, it usually does. After every big huge bull run, we have a big 80% pullback. So if that's the case, I would get about a 70% haircut during that year because of the IRS and because of the and because of inflation, right? So 70% pretty much guaranteed, or an 80% pullback, and keep my money safe where it is, and then not be abused by the banksters when they print more money and rob the value of every dollar I have in savings. Why should I pay that? So, so am I going to sell at the top of this giant bull run? No. I might make a purchase or two. You know, I might do something like buy a house in Mexico, maybe, or do something like that. But will I sell a significant amount of my stash? At this point, I don't think I will. So I think I'll just keep it sitting right where it is. Don't even bother with it, and let nature take its course. And when the banksters and government come after me to try to steal my money, well, they can't really do it very well if it's in Bitcoin, but they can take giant chunks out of my money if it's in a bank, such as in Argentina when the banksters ran out of money, or when the government ran out of money, they took everybody's bank accounts, which were denominated in dollars, and they flipped it over to whatever their currency is down there, and then devalued the living shit out of it, right? You're just asking for government theft if you have money in the bank. And then in Cyprus, of course, everybody knows about how government ran out of money, and then they performed a bank bail-in and just started taking big chunks of everybody's checking account and savings account just without a by your leave. But when you have your money in Bitcoin, they can't do that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to leave it right where it is and go on with my life. Basically, so let's get on to the how I found freedom in an unfree world. I found an old copy of it on Usenet, and it's an old book, but it is, oh, cool. MGTOW Monger just sent me an email. Anyway, I was reading it on the plane, because you can't have internet when you're on the plane. And I saw some highlights here. One of them is what he calls the identity trap. The idea is where most people try, as they're growing up, they might select an identity to just sort of step into and try to follow, and it's not really who they are. A lot of them are just sort of squeezing into this role that they're playing, and they're trying to maintain it, and they like really try, and then after a while, after years, either what's inside them, that fire in their heart, either dies, and then they just live in despair for the rest of their lives, probably get cancer, abuse drugs and whatnot, and alcohol, and then they just sort of check out. And then there are other people they squeeze themselves into this box, and then they're just like they can't stay in the box, and then boom, they break out of the box, and they shock everybody around them. And those people, we know them as basically a husband that is, society always damns us for this, but a husband that tries to fulfill this role and lives in this box, and then when he is like 50, he just breaks out and can't live that way anymore, and then he gets a sports car and that sort of thing. Replaces the 50-year-old with two 25-year-olds and tries to live that way, but man, that's another box that those people are squeezing themselves into. I wouldn't recommend that either. So basically, the trick is to, oh, and then of course there's the wife that tries to be a wife and tries, and then 2 kids or 8 years later, she can't live that way anymore because of, I don't know, her indoctrination, what she really is, what society really is. She can't maintain it, breaks out, and then here goes the divorce, and then we have to pay for it. But and that's why we all walk away. But because that is a raw deal, stupid idea to sign up for it. But they can't maintain that role, so they break out and run in all kinds of random directions and try to find themselves, and it's a real mess for everybody. So it's best to let them do that on their own. But as far as so basically the most important thing, pretty much the most important thing I've read so far in this book, is to really know who you are and be who you are honestly, and and adjust and live your life accordingly. Don't try to live in a story. Don't try to be someone you're not and live as if you are that person. The best thing to do is just to deal with it and just adapt your life to be as comfortable as you can for who you really are. And then you don't have a box to break out of, and you can live incrementally more happily every year as you adapt to reality. So the most important thing pretty much so far is to find out who you are and be that person. Second most important thing is to know who the people you are, who the people around you are, and adjust accordingly, which means to get rid of like 90% of them. But there are people you want to keep, like my old man. He's always had time for me even as a kid, time for me as an adult, and he is actually the one who suggested that I become a heavy diesel truck mechanic instead of going into automotive like I was planning. And man, that suggestion alone changed my life. And I really started exploring that option. It's a way better deal to be a heavy diesel truck mechanic than automotive. You're out of the consumer situation, the individual situation, and the people you're dealing with are corporations and their insurance companies and whatnot. And then you, as a mechanic, are working in a shop, and you have bean counters in the shop who handle the financial side. Then you just jump onto your truck. It comes in on a hook, and then you do the work on the truck, fire it up, pull it out, do the road test. And then when the customer comes to pick up the truck, you see it drive away, and you can really see, and you have something to be really proud of, because you are the one who made that truck work again. You have added value to the world, and you've gotten a good wage in return. That is just so satisfying. It's hard to really explain. Having the ability to do a good job and be proud of the work is indescribable. So yeah, I highly recommend it. Then he was talking about positive and negative decisions. Negative decisions is where you basically try to live and try to make decisions that will make you less unhappy. I lived that way for a long time. And basically you do things to sort of protect and deflect problems from coming in, which is good and intelligent. But there are a lot of people who just never really reach the point where they can make positive decisions, where you look for things that make you happy and really monitor how you are feeling at any particular time and decide which things really make you happy and which things basically don't add to your happiness. And over time, over like the years and decades, you can incorporate those things that make you happy and you are basically, and as far as like the things that make you unhappy, I mean, if you are in touch with your emotions, you can monitor that, and when something makes you feel icky or gross or unhappy, that part of your life, you have to try to get rid of that or minimize that or solve that, but you got to get that out. But then eventually you reach the point where most of your decisions are positive decisions, and you're just adding value to your life. Yeah, that falls under the chapter of who are you, and then identities, truth. Yeah, the ability to see the truth without coloring it for how you feel. Like most people, like 90% of people, especially those who are glued to the TV all the time, they don't have an accurate view or understanding of reality. So the result is they can't make good decisions. So they end up just in failure all their lives. Whereas if you really work to like get rid of bad news sources like the TV, I got rid of mine in 2005. But if you get rid of those influences, you can basically get a more clear view of how the world really works. And then you can have a chance of taking advantages of opportunities, and Bitcoin is only one of them. There are thousands of other opportunities, and the more objective and the more real your understanding is of the world, the greater level of success and happiness you'll have. It's that's under the heading of truth. And that comes about, and that brings what I call peace, freedom, and prosperity. That's the MGTOW way. So then you get happiness. Whenever, let's see, I don't want to read his entire text into the video. So let's see. Happiness is emotion, reaction to what happens. Unhappiness is an involuntary feeling of discomfort as you react to things that don't suit your nature. Yep. Basically, I did a lot of meditation back in my 20s, and a little bit in my more recent times, and I've sort of separated how my mind really works, right? We've got two parts of our being that seem to exist pretty much all the time. And what that is you got the brain, right, which is constantly full of thoughts that are bouncing around, and you basically it's kind of hard to control things and feelings and emotions, and all these forces are like a giant storm buffeting us around. But behind it all, behind all of that noise and how we feel on our physical bodies, how we feel, all of those impressions and emotions are bouncing around at all times. But the thing is, all of that doesn't appear to be who we really are. Behind all of that, there is a witness. There's a silent witness that is aware and watching the show, and generally it doesn't participate. It doesn't really reach out and try to control everything. Instead, it is almost like it is watching everything we do, but that is who we are. And if you keep your mind really quiet for like if you got 15 minutes to spare in a quiet room, a little bit dark, you'll feel all the usual thoughts bouncing around. But when the thought comes, you just sort of gently set it aside without forcing anything, and just don't give it any fuel, right? Impressions and thoughts come in, and they come in at a little tiny bit, and then they're sort of presenting an opportunity for you to jump on that thought, give it some juice, and bring it to life, right? But if that little opportunity, that little invitation is, if you just leave it, right? Leave it untouched and gently sort of gently let it fade from your awareness, then it goes away, and then you can empty your head and you can decrease all of those emotional storms, and then something weird happens. I can't swear about what you're going to feel, but when you feel this, it's sort of a warmth and sort of a silent awareness and a silent appreciation and joy of what you're experiencing. Yeah, I get that a lot when I'm fixing something, right? The whole world around me just drops into this gray void, and the only thing that really exists in my mind is what I'm working on, whatever truck or engine or whatever I'm working on, and myself, and the world just drops away. All my concerns, all of the things I would worry about normally, they just drop away, and I'm sort of floating in this void with just me and the engine, and or me and whatever it is I'm working on. But that's sort of a Zen state that I guess you can only feel if you're a mechanic. But you can feel this if you quiet your mind and you're doing something routine or you're doing nothing. That quiet joy just sort of flows in, just as if I was working on a cool project. And then your muscles relax, everything really relax. But now that I'm in the habit of doing that, I can touch that awareness, and then within a second, I feel immediately how tense I am, and within seconds, almost without thinking about it, everything relaxes, and I find myself being calm again. It's I have to be pretty wound up for that not to work. So other than that, that's about all I got for you. Yes, I've got family drama going on right now. It's not resolved yet. I'll keep you posted. And don't get married.